My people, we are live, are we live? My people, your favorite host is back. Louise Uwacu, AUSARES in the building. Oh my goodness, let me see if anybody is here tuning in live. Today we're broadcasting live on Saturday, July 6th, 2024, my people. And the English section is going to be rebroadcast on its own, the French section on its own, the Rwanda section on its own. And we are in solidarity with our African brothers of Kenya who will be celebrating tomorrow all the fallen heroes of the revolution in Kenya, the Gen Z revolution. Ooh, I got my Kenyan bracelet here. Solidarity. All right, my people. So, are you here or are you here? Leave in the comments that you are here. I think you know what is on the menu today. We are speaking about a couple of things. That's why we're going to start in English and then continue in French and then end in Kenya, Rwanda. The first thing on the English section, oh my God, Rishi Sunak is moving to Rwanda. The man who wanted to send refugees to Rwanda has been stricken, has been beaten, but has been beaten by the curse of the Kagamistan, the criminal dictatorship. Whoever collaborates with the criminal dictatorship of the Kagamistan in Rwanda will fail and fail and fail. And Rishi Sunak is just the latest to suffer that curse, my people. And apart from that, what else are we going to talk about? What else are we going to talk about? We are also going to talk about our brothers and sisters in Niger. All the free Africans are meeting in Niger today. Are you there or are you there? And then, of course, we're talking about Kenyan Gen Z versus corruption. And then we're going to end on in Rwanda, of course, with the celebration of 30 years of the criminal dictatorship in power. So we are also going to talk about that, my people. Okay, so it's a packed show. Leave me your comments if you are in the comments, and then we know. Let's get the show popping. Oh, I see you, Hunter Numu Pack. Oh, I see you. I see you. Hello, hello. And then I'm also seeing Titi Gomine. Oh, so much love back. All right, let's get it started, my people. Let's get it started. Welcome back to You and I Talk Show with your favorite AUSARES, Louise Uwacu in the building. All right, my people, welcome back to You and I Talk Show. Let me know if you're hearing me correct. We're going to start in Kenya, and then I'm going to be sharing my screen so we can visit one of the Kenyan activists that I am following, so that you can get the testimony, the message directly from the Kenyan people themselves, my people. Who, in case anybody is showing up and they don't know yet, I got my Kenyan bracelet on. Ha ha ha. Don't be mad. Don't be mad. Don't hate. Go get your bracelet on in solidarity with all the freedom lovers who will be having a huge ceremony at Uhuru Park in Nairobi. Uhuru, my people, Uhuru is such an appropriate name, which means freedom. All right. So let's visit Boniface Mwangi. I'm following. I am following Boniface Mwangi, one of the top Kenyan activists, and his hashtag Sema Ukweli. So you can understand why I love his work so much, because he's in the same stuff that we're into. The truth, my people. A regime, a rule of Ma'at, which is amategeko, ukuri, amateka, the rule of law, my people. So he has been going to some various funerals. There has been over 40 innocent young people um, killed just because they stood up for freedom from their country. So this is profoundly tragic. The mothers losing their young children. This should never happen. And as you know, the the leadership of Kenya, they got into power. I was actually listening, and this is also Boniface Mwangi talking about how they're touring Uhuru Park to see about the memorial concert that's going to happen this Sunday, July 7th, 2024. And he is talking about the level of destruction in the park, which is deliberate and evil in his words. And this was done by the goons who are financed by politicians, and none of the goons who are destroying all those things was shot dead. Police focused on killing peaceful protesters. Remember that. I saw the president's interviews in the media. The president gave interviews in the media, and then he talked about how they have CCTV. He was trying to talk about how they have CCTV for everything that went wrong, and that they have all these protesters on CCTV, and that they will go after them. And then the journalist, which I salute, the journalist really did a huge, great job. They challenged him and they told him that even the police, even the goons who trashed the rights of the peaceful protesters have also been recorded. They are also on camera. You know what I mean? And then the president was quick to come back and say, were you there? So that was a funny moment, because I was like, okay, so for him, he can talk about how they have CCTVs, but then when it's reversed and they tell him how they also have CCTV and cameras, because everybody had a camera, and so that they have recorded on the police people and the goons, they have them on camera as well. If they're going to be held accountable, the president comes back with, were you there? So you can see the double standards. In one hand, I congratulate the president for coming out and speaking and giving interviews and trying to do what we call over here crisis management. He's like on a PR operation to do some crisis management. So that is obviously, you can congratulate him on that. But he's supposed to do that. He understands his job, and he came into power because he was voted into power by the people. So he has to answer to the people. He has to answer to the people. So these are people who are killed simply because of protesting for their own rights. Why these politicians who came into power, as the president actually became, I was listening to one of his interviews, and he talked about how he understands. Let me come back in full mode as for a minute. The president was talking about how he understands how painful it is for young people not to have a job, for young people to be getting older, and yet nothing is changing in their country, right? And then he talked about, this is something that was interesting. He talked about how even he was in the same situation, didn't have a job as a young man. And then what was his job? How did he start to have a job? When he became a member of parliament. Can you imagine? So, which means that he never created a job for himself. It's when he became a member of parliament that he got a job. Okay. So, this is, you get a job in government, then you become a career politician. The only job that you have ever known, the only system that you have ever known is when you're in government, and then you're using the government to prosper to get whatever else that you have, in your life. So this is comparable to other people who rush into power. Yeah, at least in Kenya, the guy came in democratically, and the way that he came in democratically, he was able to convince the Kenyan people that he was Christ-like. He campaigned a lot in the churches, and he was able to convince the people. The way he came in is actually the same way that the colonizers have been able to get into the minds of Africans and conquer them and enslave them. It's like the coming in with religion, coming in hiding behind religion, because they know how much African people are so spiritual and how much they believe in a supreme being. So they hide behind religion and this Christ-like persona, because who would be against a Christ-like persona? Someone who is about love, someone who is about justice, someone who is about the truth, you know? So he gets his first job as an MP, goes into government. Eventually, these past 10 years, he was still in government. He's always been in government. So he can't even be the president that blames the previous power, because he is the previous power. He was also the vice president when Uhuru was a president. You know what I mean? And then eventually, when the people ask for accountability, when politicians come for a raise, when they come for your taxes, they are raising their own salaries. They're even creating jobs that don't exist. The first lady. So even these women of them don't create jobs of their own, eh? They're waiting to eat when their husband gets positions, and then they can get first lady salaries. Oh my goodness, Africa. There's so much that the Kenyan revolution is bringing up among Africans. So you see, the same way that Africans were conquered by religion, people hiding behind Christ-like personas, people putting Christ in front of people because they know that personality is a winning personality, the Prince of Peace. But then, my people, we will know them by the fruits that they produce. And what are the fruits? When the people being the sovereign, this is not like a situation where we started like in the British. We were laughing at the British, at the Rishi SUNAK, who wanted to deport people to Rwanda, and now he's out of office. This is not like the British, who have a king, you know. Even the new prime minister has to go and ask the king of England. Used to be the queen, now it's his son in power, you know. So the president of Kenya did not inherit this power from his father, you know. Ironically, Kenya had been, the British tried to colonize Kenya. I say they tried because the Kenyan people fought back and they won their independence back. We African people were independent before they come to colonize us. So they try to colonize us, but those who fight back are not colonized. And then they gain their independence back, they gain their sovereignty back, and the people of Kenya become the sovereign. So which means the people of Kenya are the king and the queens, and the president is at their service. So he went into damage control, but he won over them, pretending to be Christ, even talking against debt. And now he's coming back for more taxes to pay debt. But they want to know who took this debt, what was this debt used for, who used it, and how much money was used. They need an audit of the debt to know who owes what, who owes who, you know. So that they can know before they pay back. Because let's say if the debt was taken in the name of all Kenyans, but then only a few politicians benefited from the debt, then those politicians have to be the ones that pay the debt. Why must the entire country pay a debt that was only there to benefit a few? So when this audit eventually happens, since the people are the sovereign, You're gonna see a lot of politicians lose their seats and also have to pay back some of that debt. Who knows? Maybe African countries can come up with legislation how where if you're an African leader and you go and you contract things that are wrong for the people, where the people do not benefit, then there has to be a way where the people can eventually reject it and refuse to pay. And then the responsible politicians who signed away their countries must be held accountable individually. And if they have some wealth that they have accumulated wrongly because they sold literally their own country, their own people, then they must be held accountable on their own. The whole country cannot be held accountable, cannot be asked to pay what they never benefited from and what they were never even asked their opinion about, you know? So this is what's happening in Kenya, the Gen Z against corruption. We salute it, you know, we love it. I have my Kenyan bracelet going on. We love Kenya and Kenyans, and we wish you all the best, okay? Because this is the future of Africa, a responsible citizenship, a responsible young people who care, you know, what is happening in their own country, and who will stand up, and be responsible, you know, hold politicians accountable, you know. So before we leave the English section, I would like to show you something that we are celebrating in the French speaking world, which is the fédération, which I call la fédération Nimaso, because in Kinyarwanda Nimaso is a very powerful word, which means urimaso, turimaso, nimaso, which means they are awake, they are aware, they are not sleeping, their eyes are open. Uh, so they cannot be fooled, they cannot be conquered, they cannot be enslaved. Varimaso. Uh-huh. So the Federation Nimaso, which is Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. So the three leaders have met for the first time to cement, to have this as the foundation. The three leaders have met. This is amazing. And this is happening in Niamey. Niamey is the capital of Niger. I see a lot of great things happening in Africa. Africans are trying to stay free. This is Africans trying to stay free. It's the same thing as Kenyans, Gen Z holding their politicians accountable. That's Africans trying to stay free. Now, the prime minister who wanted to send refugees, who wanted to do human trafficking deals with the Kagamistan, Mr. Rishi Sunak has lost, okay? And he's getting ready to work at McDonald's and he's probably moving to Rwanda. He should move to Rwanda to prove that Rwanda is great and safe. As he was trying to send other refugees, other people to Rwanda, he was, you know, trying to collaborate with the criminal dictatorship. You know, they were in the human trafficking deals. So I hope that he is going to announce that he's moving to Rwanda, my people. And then Rwanda is currently was celebrating 30 years of the criminal dictatorship in power. This is a friend of mine posting. Well, the Gen Z of Kenya are standing up for their rights, holding accountable their politicians. In Rwanda, they're still just praising the criminal dictatorship. They don't hold it accountable. They're not asking for an audit. This stadium that they built, who knows how much money that it cost. And Rwanda is heavily in debt. and Rwandan people are heavily, heavily taxed. And the criminal dictatorship of the Kagamistan is still invading and plundering in Congo, you know, and still, my people, Rwanda is celebrating 30 years of dictatorship. So it's a great thing to see that in Kenya, people are standing up for freedom. Because let me tell you something. It's actually like history repeating itself. This is when you don't know history, you may repeat it. Because even back then, when Africa was attacked by the colonizers and the enslavers, huh? Know thyself, know thy history. The funny thing, not funny, tragic. But since I'm an undercover comedian, I find funny in everything. When the colonizers and the enslavers came to Rwanda to colonize and enslave Rwandans, the leadership in Rwanda, the monarchy in Rwanda, collaborated with the enslavers. The same way that today you see the Kagamistan in Rwanda collaborating with the enslavers in order to do some human trafficking deals, and the Kagamistan being praised as a visionary leader, despite the fact that he is at war in Congo, despite the fact that over 10 million lives of Congolese people have been lost, and that the Kagamistan is being used just plundering Congo, and then signing human trafficking deals with the UK, the same criminal dictatorship that was brought into power by the Americans and by the UK, the very same who benefit when the Kagamistan goes to plunder in Congo. So today, Rwandans have no say. It's a criminal dictatorship, and the criminal dictatorship is collaborating with our colonizers and our enslavers, the same way that back in the days, the monarchy in Rwanda, that was the mistake of the monarchy in Rwanda, when the colonizers and the enslavers, the Germans who were the first European to come, they collaborated with the monarchy of that time. So it's comparable to today, the Kagamistan collaborating against our fellow Africans. And then in Kenya, what happened in Kenya? They revolted. We know about the Mau Mau. They revolted. They did not allow the enslavers and the colonizers to completely take off Kenya and take over Kenya and completely oppress and colonize people, and then the independence have to be given to them. No, Kenyans stood up, rose up, and fought against the British Empire and won. Okay, it's like Kenyans remember more vividly who we are, builders of civilization, free people who have been building civilization since ancient Kemet. And the very same things that you see in ancient Kemet, it's the same people in Kenya, in Rwanda, in Congo. This is our civilization. We are the same people, whether it be these people who are being called Nilotic or Bantu, same people. Bantu is the plural of Muntu. Muntu, Bantu. And then the Nilotic people is it's all Africans who have the River Nile. The River Nile comes all the way to Rwanda. So it's like Kenyans remember these things, but Rwandans have forgotten. These are the same people in Kenya, same people in Rwanda. But in Rwanda, we are enslaved, okay? And in Kenya, this is why we love them so much and we're admiring them so much. They have stood up for their rights back then when the British were attacking them in order to still be a free, independent, democratic, and sovereign nation today, while Rwandans were still getting enslaved. Okay. So maybe this is also the same difference that is happening today. Rwandans still praising dictatorship, still enslaved by a criminal dictatorship, which was installed by the colonizers, which is getting praised by the colonizers. And also, this has been the problem with the new, with the president of Kenya. He's being accused by his own people of working for the colonizers, not putting the interest of the Kenyan people above everything else, not understanding that the sovereign in Kenya is the people. It's like he went to the White House and forgot who he was working for, thought he was working for Biden, the IMF, and the World Bank, comes back to Kenya, gets reminded who is his boss. His boss is not Biden, his boss is the Kenyan people. So they are reminding him. Now, Rwandans, they're terrorized and terrified because their boss is still a criminal dictator who kills in millions and millions and millions in order to stay in office. So the level of savagery in Rwanda is just on a whole other level of savagery. But also the people are not the same. You know, the Kenyans, they fought for their sovereignty and independence. And their president came into power through elections, through pretending like he's Christ, like he's Christ-like. But at least he didn't start a war in order to come into power by force, the same way that the Kagamistan came into power by war, by genocide, by causing a genocide. And then claiming to be the ones who are saving people. But they started a war just so they could take over power. And they were supported in that war by the Americans and the UK. So there's never been fair, free, transparent elections in Rwanda in order for people to elect their own leaders. No, it's always been people who came into power through war. That was the first government, even before Kagame took over power completely, eliminating so many people of his first government, you know, and a lot of these people are now in exile. This was his first government when they went to war, caused a genocide by assassinating the leader that they replaced, assassinating the president of Rwanda and assassinating the president of Burundi. These are not things that have happened in Kenya. So this is why we're dreaming. This is why we're like, Kenya is the big brother example that we aspire to become democratic and free and sovereign as a people, as a nation, so that one day we may also have leaders who come into power because they're capable of convincing the people. And if they convince the people that they are Christ-like, but then they get into power and they turn out to be not like Christ, very far from being like Christ. There are people are like, no, we are kicking you out of the temple, yo. The temple is the people's house, the people's power, people power. They have real people power. And they're like, it's our people's house. We are kicking you out of the temple because you are in the temple. Why are you in the temple just lying and lying and lying to people? This is not Christ-like to be out there just lying. So, this is the dream. Kenyans, do you understand that we are dreaming and praying to become like you in Rwanda? We are dreaming that when we grow up and become a democracy, we will be like you, man. All right? So let's move into French and keep talking about it. Thank you so much, Kenya, for being a great example and showing us how it's done. We salute you. We are with you. Gen Z, tuko pamoja. Gen Z, tuko pamoja. All the people who are standing up for freedom, for truth, for justice, for peace, prosperity. For the many, we are together. Remind the politicians who they work for. This is how it's done. This is how it's proper. It's proper, holding your politicians accountable. Your ancestors fought for it. The Mau Mau and everybody else who came after that. everybody who fought for freedom in Kenya and always died for it. So their sacrifice was not in vain. And the freedom that you have today, it did not come to you. You always stood up. You always stood up and fought for it. Because freedom is not something that somebody gives you. Freedom is something that you take for yourself. And Kenya has been taking its freedom time after time, reminding the people who seek to rule who is the real boss, and the real boss is the real people power. We salute you. We love you so much. Thank you so much, Kenya. Keep being an amazing example for all Africans. In Rwanda, we can only keep dreaming. All right. So let's move into French and speak to the West African people about what is happening with the Fédération du Nimasso. On est ensemble. Oh.